Commander Teo stood in the center of the great Imperial Hall, his body shaped like a pillar of blue crystal that glowed softly in the darkness. The walls around him were made of materials that did not exist on any normal world. They seemed to breathe with their own light. Above him floated the council members, their forms suspended in the air by ancient technology. Empress Min-Sun sat at the highest point, her body larger and more brilliant than all the others. She watched Tayo with eyes that burned like stars. Tayo had just returned from a long mission to a small planet called Earth. It was a blue world that spun slowly in a distant solar system. The Empire had marked it for conquest many cycles ago, but the timing never seemed right. Now, finally, the Empress had decided that Earth would be the next prize for the Krell Empire. The problem was that Teo had to tell them they were making a huge mistake. "Your Majesty," Teo began, his voice like wind moving through crystal caves, "I must speak plainly about what I have learned on Earth. What I have seen troubles me greatly." Empress Min-Sun leaned forward slightly. Around her, the council members turned their attention to Tayo. Some of them looked interested. Others looked bored. To them, Earth was just another world to add to their collection. They had conquered thousands of worlds before. "The humans of Earth are not like other species we have fought," Teo continued. He moved his hand and images appeared in the air. Pictures of Earth's cities, mountains, oceans, and deserts floated above the floor. "They are young. Their technology is primitive. But this is exactly what makes them dangerous." "Dangerous?" said a council member named Corvesh. His form was smaller and sharper than the others. "You are telling us that beings with metal flying machines are dangerous to us? We have weapons that can destroy entire stars, Teo. What threat can they possibly be?" Teo expected this response. Everyone always underestimated humans at first. "Their weapons are weak, yes, but their minds are not. I have studied them for many seasons. I have walked among their cities. I have learned their languages, and what I have discovered is this: humans are animals built for survival. They adapt to danger like no other species I have ever seen." He moved his hand again, and new images appeared. These showed scenes of human history, wars, disasters, recoveries. Humans rebuilding their cities again and again. Humans surviving plagues that killed millions. Humans creating new technology while their old technology was still breaking apart. "When humans face a threat to their survival," Teo said, "something awakens inside them. They become different creatures. They work together instead of against each other. They think in new ways. They build new tools. They find solutions that should not be possible. And most importantly, Empress, they do not accept defeat. They do not surrender easily. They fight until one side is completely destroyed." Empress Min-Sun made a sound like ice cracking. It was her way of showing she was thinking about something. "You speak as if you fear them," she said. "I do fear them," Teo said clearly. "Not because they are strong now, they are not. But because if we attack them directly, if we invade their world, we will awaken that survival instinct. And if we do that, they will become an enemy far more costly than any other we have faced." Another council member, whose name was Drenhall, made a sound like wind whistling. "The commander is tired. He has spent too long away from home. Too much time with the weaker species has made him weak himself. Earth is nothing. We will take it in a single season. Its people will surrender or be destroyed. Either way, it will be done." Many of the council members made similar sounds of agreement. Teo felt his glow dim with worry and sadness. "Your Majesty," he said, speaking directly to Empress Min-Sun now, "I am asking you to mark Earth as a protected world. Let me place a warning in our charts." Let us leave them alone and move our expansion efforts to other systems. This is not a matter of weakness. It is a matter of wisdom. Some battles are not worth fighting, and this one will cost us more than any prize Earth could ever offer." The hall fell silent. Every crystal form froze in place. The Empress stared down at Teo for what felt like forever. Then she spoke, and her voice filled the entire hall. "You have grown soft, Teo. For 40 cycles you have served the Empire well. But now I see that age has made you timid. Earth is rich in resources, its location is valuable for our expansion, and its people, as weak as they are, will make good workers if they are conquered rather than destroyed." She raised her hand slightly. "We will invade Earth in the next moon cycle. A full fleet will go there. The humans will learn that the Krell Empire takes what it wants, and they will learn that resisting us is futile. This is the will of the Empire, and it will be done." Teo tried to speak again, but the other council members were already moving away from their floating positions. They were leaving the hall. The discussion was over. His warning had been heard and rejected. As he stood alone in the great chamber, Teo knew that something terrible was about to happen. He had seen the signs in the human cities. He had felt the power of human determination. He had watched them overcome challenges that should have destroyed them. The Empress was making a mistake, a terrible, catastrophic mistake, and there was nothing more he could do to stop it. In the days that followed, Teo watched as the Krell Empire began its preparations for war. Great ships were built and loaded with weapons. Soldiers were trained and organized into fleets. Maps were drawn, showing attack routes and target locations. Everything was ready for the conquest of Earth. Teo knew he could not stop what was coming. The Empire's will was set. But as he watched the war machines being prepared, he made a quiet decision in his heart. If he could not prevent the invasion, then perhaps he could find another way to help. Perhaps there was still something he could do to prevent the complete destruction of humanity. He did not know yet what that something would be. But as the Krell fleet prepared to leave the homeworld, Teo was already thinking of ways to send a message to Earth. A message to tell them that an enemy was coming. A message that might just give them the time they needed to prepare, even if it meant becoming a traitor to his own people. Dr. Hei-Wan sat in her laboratory looking at the strange readings on her screens. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. But she was not paying attention to the beautiful view. Her eyes were fixed on the numbers dancing across her computer displays. For 3 years, Hei-Wan had noticed something odd in the space above Earth. Energy signatures that should not exist. Unusual patterns in the electromagnetic fields around their solar system. Most scientists had dismissed her warnings as measurement errors or instrument problems. They said her equipment was broken or that she was misreading the data. But Hei-Wan knew she was right. She could feel it in her bones, in her mind, in the deepest part of her that understood how the universe worked. Hei-Wan picked up her phone and called Commander Dae-Jung. He was the highest military official in Asia, and he was one of the few people who had taken her warnings seriously. They had worked together on several projects before. They trusted each other. "Dae-Jung," she said when he answered, "I need you to come to my lab immediately. Something is happening in our solar system. Something big." 2 hours later, Commander Dae-Jung stood beside Hei-Wan, staring at the same screens that had been confusing her for months. Dae-Jung was a tall man with a military bearing. His face showed the kind of strength that came from years of making hard decisions. "These readings," he said slowly, "they are getting stronger?" "Yes," Hei-Wan said. "And look at the direction. They are coming toward us, from outside our solar system. Something is approaching Earth at incredible speed." Dae-Jung's jaw tightened. He was a soldier, and soldiers understood what an approaching unknown meant. "How long until whatever it is reaches us?" 3 weeks, Hei-Wan said. "Maybe a month if we are lucky." Dae-Jung left the laboratory and went straight to the Global Defense Council. HFY came with him to present her data. When they told the world leaders what they had discovered, the reaction was divided. Some believed them immediately. Others thought it was a hoax or a misunderstanding. Some governments wanted to wait longer before taking any action. They argued that 3 weeks was plenty of time to prepare. But Daijong and HFY knew better. 3 weeks was nothing. During those 3 weeks, something remarkable happened. For the first time in human history, the nations of Earth began to work together. It was not easy. There were still disagreements. There were still people who did not trust each other. But when faced with the knowledge that something unknown and possibly dangerous was coming toward their entire planet, humanity started to unite. Governments that had been enemies for generations began sharing information. Scientists from different countries worked together in a way they never had before. Military leaders from every nation sat in the same rooms and planned defenses together. Religious leaders asked their followers to pray for Earth's safety, and their prayers brought people together rather than dividing them. HFY worked with engineers and scientists from around the world to build a defense system. In the mountains of Tibet, she discovered something that changed everything. It was the remains of an ancient spacecraft. It had crashed to Earth thousands of years ago. No one knew how long it had been buried there or where it had come from. But the technology inside it was still partially functional. Using knowledge gained from studying this ancient spacecraft, HFY and her team built a shield. It was a device that could create an energy barrier around Earth. It would not be perfect. It would not be as powerful as modern Krell shields. But it was something. It was hope. When the massive Krell fleet entered Earth's orbital space, humanity was ready. The first contact was shocking. Thousands of ships appeared in the sky. They were enormous, each one larger than entire cities. They blocked out the sun in many places. The sight of them filled billions of humans with fear, but it also filled them with resolve. The Krell fleet sent messages to Earth. They demanded immediate surrender. They said that resistance was futile. They gave humanity 1 hour to respond. Commander Daijong sat in the Global Command Center, surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and politicians. On screens all around him, he could see the alien ships hovering above Earth. He could see his own people looking up at the sky in fear and wonder. "Activate the shield," he said calmly. Dr. HFY, standing beside him, entered the activation code into the defense system. The entire planet suddenly glowed with an energy that came from deep underground. The shield appeared in the sky like an invisible dome covering all of Earth. When the Krell fleet tried to fire at Earth, their weapons struck this shield and bounced away. The first volley of attacks caused no damage. The Krell fleet paused, as if considering what they had just encountered. Then they fired again. Harder this time. More weapons. More force. But the shield held. For the first time since they had entered Earth's atmosphere, the Krell fleet did not immediately destroy their target. Something was protecting this primitive world. Something unexpected. Something they had not prepared for. As explosions lit up the sky above Earth, humanity watched and waited. They had thrown their first punch. They had shown that they would not go down without a fight. Now they would learn what it truly meant to face an enemy that wanted to rule the stars. Q Lee was an engineer, and engineers solve problems. That was what Q Lee did best. When the Krell fleet attacked Earth and the shield began to weaken under the constant bombardment, Q Lee did not waste time being afraid. She set to work. She gathered teams of engineers from every country. Together, they collected scrap metals, advanced materials, and pieces of technology from the ancient crashed ship that HFY had discovered. They built weapons that should not have worked. They combined human engineering knowledge with designs from the alien ship. The result was something new, something that should have been impossible. Pilot Mi-sun was the first to use these new weapons. She sat in the cockpit of a fighter jet that had been rebuilt and modified dozens of times. The weapons that Q Lee had designed hung under the wings of her aircraft. They did not look like they belonged there. They looked too strange, too alien. But when Mi-sun pressed the fire button for the first time, she felt the power of these new weapons flowing through her hands. She flew toward the nearest Krell ship and fired. The weapon was unlike anything she had ever used before. It did not shoot bullets or traditional missiles. Instead, it fired concentrated bursts of energy pulled directly from the ancient ship's power core. When the blast hit a Krell fighter that was trying to get past her, the alien ship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone, destroyed completely. Mi-sun laughed with a mixture of joy and shock. They could hurt them. They could actually damage the Krell ships. But the war was far from over. In fact, it was only beginning. Biologist Tai Ho made an important discovery in his laboratory. He was studying samples of air and dust that had fallen from the Krell ships during the battles. He found tiny particles that were toxic to Krell biology. These particles existed naturally on Earth, in small amounts, in certain environments. The Krell had never encountered this toxin before. It had never existed in any of the worlds they had conquered because those worlds were very different from Earth. When Taeho tested the toxin on captured Krell equipment, he found that it damaged their systems. It corroded their materials. It interfered with their technology in ways they had never experienced. Taeho brought his findings to Haiwan and Daijung. They immediately understood the importance of what he had discovered. They could use Earth's own unique environment as a weapon. Scientists began to create concentrated versions of this natural toxin. They sprayed it into the upper atmosphere. They added it to the water supply near military installations. They coated weapons and armor with it. Slowly, the Krell fleet began to experience problems that had nothing to do with human weapons or shields. Their ships started to malfunction. Their equipment began to corrode. Their soldiers became sick when they were exposed to Earth's environment for too long. The Krell commanders were confused. They had conquered thousands of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. Earth was not supposed to be hostile to them. Earth was supposed to be empty, except for primitive creatures that could be easily defeated. But nothing about this invasion was going the way they had planned. Young Lieutenant Ji-woo was a computer expert. When Hae-won's team managed to capture one of the Krell communication devices, Ji-woo spent days studying how it worked. The device was incredibly advanced by human standards, but it was based on principles that Ji-woo could understand. She began to see patterns in how the Krell communicated. She found weaknesses in their encryption. And then, after weeks of work, she found something even more important. She discovered that all the Krell ships in the fleet were connected to a central command system. They all received orders from the same place. They all depended on the same network to coordinate their attacks. "If we can attack that network," Ji-woo said to Daejung, "we can cripple their entire fleet." "Can you do it?" Daejung asked. "I can try," Ji-woo said, "but I will need to get close to one of their main ships, very close. Close enough that they might kill me before I finish." Daejung looked at this young woman who had volunteered for a suicide mission. He saw determination in her eyes. He saw the same spirit that he had been seeing in all of humanity since the invasion began. They were afraid, yes, but they were not broken. They were not giving up. "Then we will get you close," he said. "That is what the military is for." A plan was created. Mi-sun would fly a small, fast aircraft with Ji-woo inside. They would sneak past the Krell defenses and get close enough to one of the main command ships. Ji-woo would upload a virus into their network, a virus that would make all of the Krell ships lose communication with each other. Without the ability to coordinate, the fleet would become confused and weak. The plan was dangerous. It was crazy. It might not even work. But it was the best chance Earth had. In a hidden base deep underground, Taeho watched all of this happening. He had managed to escape from Krell custody, and he had made contact with the human resistance through secret channels. He was sending them information about Krell strategy, Krell weaknesses, and Krell movements. What he was seeing amazed him. Humans were not just defending themselves. They were learning. They were adapting. They were becoming stronger with each battle that passed. Just as he had predicted in the Imperial Hall, the invasion had awakened something inside humanity. It had activated their survival instinct, their creativity, their ability to unite against a common enemy. The Krell Empire had made a terrible mistake, just as Teo had warned. And now, as he watched this young fighter pilot and this young computer expert prepare for a mission that might change everything, Teo realized that the Empire was about to learn just how terrible that mistake really was. Humanity was rising. The night sky lit up like a star was being born as Mi-Sun's aircraft shot through the Krell defenses. Enemy fire exploded all around her. Her small ship was fast, but the Krell ships were powerful. For every laser bolt she managed to dodge, 3 more came at her. In the back of the aircraft, Ji-Woo sat at a hastily assembled computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She was not flying. She was not fighting. She only had one job: get the virus to the Krell command ship. "We are 5 minutes away," Mi-Sun said through the communication system. Her voice was calm, but Ji-Woo could hear the strain behind it. "But there are 2 fighter squadrons moving to intercept us." "Get me to the command ship," Ji-Woo said. "I only need 2 minutes." Mi-Sun pushed the aircraft to its absolute limit. The small ship screamed through space, weaving between laser fire and pursuing enemies. Then, suddenly, a massive Krell cruiser appeared in front of them. It was so large that its hull seemed to block out all the stars behind it. "That is it," Ji-Woo said. "That is the command ship. Get me within transmission range." Mi-Sun drove toward the cruiser. Enemy weapons lit up the darkness. A laser bolt passed so close to the aircraft that it burned off part of the wing. But Mi-Sun did not stop. She got closer and closer to the massive enemy ship. "I have the signal locked," Ji-Woo said. "Uploading the virus now." The upload began. It would take exactly 90 seconds. 90 seconds that felt like an eternity. The Krell ships were closing in. There were 10 of them now, maybe more. They all wanted to destroy this small human aircraft that dared to threaten their command center. 45 seconds into the upload, an explosion rocked the aircraft. A weapons hit. Not a direct hit, but close enough. Alarms started screaming. Red lights filled the cockpit. "I am losing power," Mi-Sun said. Her voice was steady, but she knew what might happen. "The virus upload? Still going," Ji-Woo said. 30 seconds left. Another explosion, this time worse. Smoke filled the aircraft. Mi-Sun could barely see the controls in front of her, but she knew what she had to do. She pushed the aircraft forward, moving it to block a laser bolt meant for the vulnerable transmission dish. The beam hit the aircraft directly. The damage was catastrophic. "Upload is complete," Ji-Woo said. "We did it. We did it, Mi-Sun. The virus is in their system." Mi-Sun tried to respond, but her communication system was dead. The aircraft was falling. It was no longer controllable, but that was okay. They had done what they came to do. The virus was inside the Krell command network. What happened next surprised everyone. All across the Krell fleet, systems started to fail. The ships lost connection with the main command center. They could no longer receive orders. They could no longer coordinate with each other. The perfectly organized military machine became a confused collection of individual ships. Without the central command giving orders, the Krell invasion fell apart. Back on the Krell homeworld, Empress Mi-Sun received reports of the disaster. Her precious fleet, the greatest military force in her empire, was now useless. The human virus had destroyed their entire command network. The ships could not attack together anymore. They could not support each other. They were like a body without a brain. The Empress was furious. But she was also intelligent enough to understand what had happened. Humans had done something she thought was impossible. They had taken an action that turned the tide of the entire battle. With one brave mission by 2 pilots, they had crippled her invasion force. Empress Min Sun made a decision. She sent a message to all the Krell ships in orbit around Earth. "Retreat," she commanded. "Regroup and prepare for another assault. We will crush them completely this time. They will pay for what they have done to us." But the retreat was not an organized one. Ships collided with each other. They fired on one another by mistake. Some ships were too damaged to even flee. The human forces on Earth, under the command of Dai Jung, attacked the damaged Krell ships without mercy. They had been defending their home. Now, they went on the offensive. 3 massive Krell battlecruisers were destroyed in a coordinated strike. Hundreds of Krell fighters were shot down by human pilots in their strange new hybrid aircraft. The Krell fleet, which had seemed so invincible just days before, became a broken collection of damaged and fleeing ships. Meanwhile, Dr. Heywan broke the encryption on a new set of Krell communication messages. What she found in those messages shocked everyone. The Krell Empire had information about humanity. They had studied Earth before this invasion. They had gathered data on human history, human behavior, and human technology. But they had gotten it all wrong. They thought humans were weak because they had no advanced weapons. They thought humans were primitive because their technology was simple. They never understood that humans were smart in different ways. Humans could adapt. Humans could create solutions to impossible problems. Humans could unite when they faced a common threat. The Krell had known all these facts about humanity, but they had not understood what those facts meant. They had made the terrible mistake of thinking that knowledge was the same as understanding. Back in his secret location, Teo received a message from Daejong. "Your warning was correct," the message said. "We did not need to defeat the Krell. We only needed to survive long enough to adapt. Thank you for helping us. When this is all over, there will be peace between our people." Teo's crystal form glowed with a mixture of emotions. Pride, sadness, hope, and fear all mixed together. He had betrayed his own empire to help these humans, and it had been worth it. But the war was not yet over. The Krell would come again. Empress Min Sun would not accept this defeat. She would return with an even larger fleet. And the final battle, the one that would decide the fate of both humanity and the Krell Empire, was still to come. The second invasion came with twice the force of the first. When the Krell fleet appeared in Earth's sky again, it was even larger. Empress Min Sun had decided that humans deserved to be destroyed completely. She had assembled the largest military force ever created in the history of the Krell Empire. This time, there would be no mistakes. Commander Daejong stood in the Global Command Center with Haiwan beside him. They watched the data coming in from their sensors. The Krell fleet was enormous. It was almost as if the entire empire was coming to Earth. "How long can the shield hold?" Daejong asked. "Against this many ships, maybe 3 days," Haiwan said. "Maybe less. They are hitting us from all angles now. The power core is already under strain." Daejong nodded. He had known this might happen. He had prepared for it. But knowing something and facing it were two different things. 3 days was not much time to defeat an empire's entire military force. "Send orders to all combat teams," Daejong said. "Kyuli's new weapons are to be deployed immediately. Every human pilot is to report for duty. We do not rest until they are gone, or we are destroyed." The order went out across the planet. In factories, in laboratories, in military bases hidden deep in mountains and beneath the oceans, humans prepared for battle. Kyuli's weapon factories worked through the night, building more hybrid weapons. Mi Sun, her body healed from her previous mission, climbed into another fighter jet. She was ready to fly again. Above Earth, the shield took hit after hit after hit. The energy barrier that Heywan had created began to crack under the weight of billions of weapons firing at it. The Krell were no longer trying to be careful or strategic. They were simply overwhelming their target with brute force. Deep underground, in a hidden location that only Daijong knew about, Teo had finally arrived. The alien general had managed to escape from the Krell forces that were hunting him. He was tired, and his crystal form had been damaged in his escape. But he was alive. Daijong met him in a secure chamber. It was the first time they had seen each other in person. "Your people will not stop," Teo said immediately. "The Empress has made this personal. She will keep attacking until every human is dead or enslaved. This is now about pride. The Empire's pride has been hurt." "Then what do we do?" Daijong asked. "We cannot win by defense alone. We do not have enough weapons. We do not have enough soldiers." "But you have something else," Teo said. "You have me, and I know how Krell ships are built. I know where they are weakest. I know which systems are most important to keep them flying." Teo moved to a computer and pulled up designs of the Krell battlecruisers. He showed Daijong something that very few humans would ever know. He showed him the main power core that existed deep within each major Krell ship, the location of it, the weakness of it. "If you can reach this," Teo said, pointing at a specific location in the ship's design, "you can destroy the entire vessel. You will need to go inside the ship. You will need to use human soldiers, but one explosion in this location will be enough." Daijong stared at the design. It was a suicide mission. Whoever went into a Krell battlecruiser would almost certainly not come out alive. But if Teo was right, if they could destroy even a few of these massive ships from the inside, it might turn the tide. "I will do it," Daijong said. "I will take a team into their main cruiser." "No," Teo said. "You must stay here and coordinate the defense, but I will come with you. I will show you the exact location, and I will help your soldiers reach it. It is time I stopped hiding. It is time I took my place on the side of the right choice." The plan was insane, but they were out of options. A small team of human soldiers was assembled. They were equipped with every weapon that Quli had created. They wore armor that had been designed to protect them against Krell weapons. They carried explosives powerful enough to destroy whatever they needed to destroy. In the middle of the final battle, while the shield was failing and the Krell fleet was overwhelming Earth's defenses, this small team managed to get inside one of the main Krell battlecruisers. Teo, moving through his own people's ship, guided them to the power core. The battle inside the ship was fierce. Krell soldiers fought the human team in every corridor, but the humans were fighting for their home. The Krell were fighting for their empire. The Krell were tired and confused. The humans had nothing left to lose. They reached the power core. Teo helped them place the explosives in exactly the right location. Then they ran. The explosion that followed was massive. It was so large that it was visible from Earth's surface. A Krell battlecruiser simply ceased to exist. Millions of tons of advanced technology turned into dust. And then, remarkably, a second explosion happened, then a third. Other human teams had made it into Krell ships as well. Other explosions were occurring throughout the fleet. Daijong watched from the command center as the tide began to turn. For the first time since the second invasion began, it looked like humanity might actually win. But the final turn came when something unexpected happened. Empress Min-sun's own personal flagship came under attack by coordinated human forces. The Empress, shocked that her own empire could be challenged, made a critical mistake. She came out of her hiding place to command the defense personally. And in that moment, with her ship under heavy attack and her commanders confused by the sudden onslaught, a human team managed to board her flagship. HFY, now taking an active role in the battle, led this team herself. The Empress and HFY never actually met in combat, but as the humans moved through the ship toward the power core, Empress Min-sun faced a choice. She could try to stop them or she could try to escape. She chose to do both. She went to stop them. And on the way, she was caught in the explosion that destroyed her own ship's power core. Empress Min-sun, the ruler of thousands of worlds, died when her ship was torn apart by the combined power of her own technology and human determination.